Okay. So you can do it. Oh, here he comes. I think this is him right now. So we are here for here's Leo, yay, come join me. We are here for a search committee meeting. And we have present Councilor Wingard, Earthissel, Powers, myself, Councilor Marks, Councilor Kenny. We do not have Councilor Laraway or Demerit, and I don't know if they're on their way, but we'll find out. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is to take a quick review of FGR's visit, which is coming up. Lisa will be arriving Sunday evening and will be here in town offices by 8 a.m. on Monday morning. She's got a busy schedule we put together. We've shared that with Cornell, with Lisa, and are confirmed with all of the things marked confirmed there on that schedule right now. I'm feeling good about it. I would say more publicity for the Tuesday night meeting is the big thing for the Tuesday night committee. All community meeting where we launch the search. Lisa will be here, our recruiter. I know staff has been really great. They've been getting emails out to lists they have. Mitch, at this point, it's gone to the business community list, the nonprofit list, the library, Parks and Rec. Am I missing?
The
trash list, got it.
On that, and then went to all the boards and committees.
And every board and committee. So those have all been emailed out. Dan, you're here. Can you tell us social media wise, is there anything you've been doing on publicizing the meeting for next Tuesday?
Been working on it.
Okay, so anyone else?
Today.
Yeah, but just more social media, share it out, and anyone listening, if you have it, share it out. If you don't have it, reach out to the town and say, send it to me and share it out on your networks. We want as much of the community as possible to be here on Tuesday night. Tuesday, the 30th, from 6 to 7:30. Yeah, meet and greet from 6 to 6:30 and facilitated meeting from 6:30 to 7.
Well, we're making advertisements.
Yes. Advertisements, here we are.
Free, that's right. We got this big channel. We're reaching into homes all over the place.
What is the advertisement?
My thought was just to put a word out that we're going to put a word out. There's also people that have volunteered to be advisory
On this advisory committee,
on advisory
search
committee.
committee.
We, I think roughly we believe there's probably
15.
maybe going to be 8 to 10 or something. We have more than we're going to place on that committee. We've had no discussions about it.
Nope.
We plan to in the near future, and that committee won't probably be doing anything till
Middle of
March. Yeah, so don't worry if you haven't heard from us. We do have an organized list. We will be updating you to know where we're at, but we have not discussed that at all. We don't know nobody's been chosen to be on it. We don't know who's going to be on it. We have your names. Thank you very much for volunteering, and we will be reaching out to kind of let people know what's happening shortly.
And everybody, and of course, those folks are invited to.
Of course, right.
Everyone invited, and if you still want to be on the advisory search committee, still send your name in. We're still taking names.
Yes.
Okay, good. Great.
Yes.
Right, there we go. Public service announcements. Does anyone have any concerns or questions about Lisa's visit that need to be discussed? We're good. Okay.
Everyone's seen the schedule.
They all just looked at it. Except maybe Dan. Have you seen the schedule from the Google sheet?
Thank you to Sarah for doing
Right out straight with other stuff.
woman's work, putting it together. I think it looks really good. We are working her fingers to the bones while she's here, unfortunately for her, but it sounds like she's probably used to it, so.
All right, well, that was number one, just to review the visit and make sure we're okay on that. And let's say publicity. Everybody help with publicity between now and Tuesday. That would be really great. Okay, the next thing is the search advisory committee process. So this is sort of what Leo began talking about, that we will be putting together an advisory search committee that will have a role helping us to review candidates and make recommendations, but not make a final choice. That power lies with council. But this would be the committee that would help with the review and would give recommendations to us and their opinions and perspectives. I emailed this document out of all the things we need to talk about, but if people don't have it, people want it in a written copy coming down. Cornell, you have it digitally, I know. And that way. Everyone wants to see.
Did you hand out a search pack, like a visit schedule, or is it?
It's on the Google sheet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so, this is a list of questions that I hope we can work through about how this search advisory committee is going to work. It begins with some recommendations, from Lissa and SGR, our search firm. Most important things are that, search committee needs to understand, according to SGR, that they have an advisory role only, which we have agreed to as a council, that that is their role. They will discuss and give advice on candidates, and council will go into a room on its own and make decisions at each stage of the process, with which that committee is involved. That's how it will work. There will be non-disclosure agreements, which are very important for confidentiality, that folks on that committee must sign to participate. People's jobs and livelihoods are at stake when they're applying for a job. It's important that that not be leaked out to current employers. All meetings of the search committee will be closed confidential meetings, and if counselors are present, they will be executive sessions. Everybody's good with those, I'm assuming? Just reiterating? Okay. So this is where we got to last week. The search advisory committee can potentially be involved at 3 stages of the process. The first stage of the process where they could be involved is the selection of semifinalists. This is where SGR would bring us every candidate who has applied, whether that is 30 or 50 or more. They bring us all those candidates and present those candidates to us. Leo and I clarified just today that we will not have seen resumes and applications prior to that meeting. SGR has a very organized process by which they bring everything to that meeting, and we do it all right there. Nothing has been sent to us digitally ahead of time. And that is because confidentiality of candidates is the most important at this stage. This is the early stage. We haven't established mutual interest yet. And people are just, inquiring and putting their hat in the ring, but confidentiality is very important. So there's nothing that comes digitally to us before then. It all happens in the meeting. The second place where the advisory committee could be involved is making a selection of finalists. So this is approximately 3 to 4 weeks later, where we do get a packet this time for every semifinalist, the 10 to 15. There's a big packet that comes to us, and then we get in a room again and we look at that 10 to 15 people and we reduce it down to the 2 to 5 finalists. So this is the second stage when the advisory committee could be involved. And the third one,
Does that not happen at the same time? Like 1 and 2?
no, those are separate. The first one is getting from everyone who applied down to the 10 to 15 semifinalists. The next one is getting from the 10 to 15 semifinalists down to the 2 to 5 finalists.
So
Yep.
will SGR provide different kinds of information at each stage? So it's more brief in the first stage.
Right.
And
Very much. And at the first stage, they'll bring us candidates in tiers. They're very organized. They do a lot with the candidates at that stage. They come to us and this is the tier we recommend is really not qualified at all. But they still present the names to us so that we know who applied, not the names, sorry, I think only when we get in closed session, but names is another thing we'll talk about in a minute. So hold on that, but they present the candidates to us there. Jeff, at the next stage, when we're moving from semifinalists to finalists, there's a big packet that's put together on every semifinalist. There's recorded interviews, there's written questions they have to answer. There's a lot that comes to us digitally before that meeting. And then it's in a disappearing digital link that we have access to for a certain amount of time, and then it will disappear and it will never exist in the ether after that. Does that make sense? And then the third stage where the advisory committee could be involved is, and should be involved, is the face-to-face interviews of finalists here on site in Orono, which will be 2 to 5 people, all in one day. It's a big day. So those are the 3 possible stages where the committee can be involved, the advisory committee. And one thing we need to decide tonight is if we will have them involved at all 3 stages or only at, I don't know if maybe anyone here wants them at less than 2. The only debate that has been happening with Leo and I is between whether they are involved in all 3 stages or just 2. Leo and I have had some different opinions about the selection of semifinalists, and I have some notes from Lissa about that too. I guess we'll start by saying, if anyone possibly think that they don't want the advisory committee in the face-to-face interviews, please speak now. No, okay. Anyone not want them helping to get semifinalists down to finalists? Please speak now. Good. Okay, so then the only one we're really debating, I think, is number 1. So on number 1, Lissa had some different, her advice was not to involve them then and to bring them in at the selection of semifinalists to finalists. When Leo and I asked for some clarifications as to why, there were three reasons. One was just that she says it's really usually quite obvious how to get from the big pool to the semifinalists. There's not usually a lot of debate on that, and everybody is usually a pretty clear cut who those last 15 people are. So
With
potentially,
that said, she did also previously say that, I think from council's perspective.
Right, from
If
our
there is a one that's not on there that if there's any council member that feels like, I'd like to have this moved over, they typically do it.
she said they always do it. She said she's never had one. Her policy is any counselor wants a candidate to move forward, they move forward, even if it's just one counselor. And she said even with that rule, she's never ended up with more than 50. So she feels confident it's not very hard to get down to that number. So there is the question of whether it would be a waste of search advisory committee time. If it's that simple a process usually. The other one is that it takes Lissa about an hour to do that presentation of the big group of candidates and with us or with the advisory committee, whichever group, and get it down to the 15. So she'll have to do that twice if we do it once with the advisory committee and then once with us, because she presents each candidate and asks for questions as she goes. So it doubles her time from 1 hour to 2 hours. And then the biggest reason for her really has nothing to do with our process. It has to do with the other end, where she feels like confidentiality is super important for candidates at that point. So she would want us to be very confident that our advisory committee would follow their non-disclosure agreement, keep everybody's information fully confidential. This is the most sensitive stage for that. So that is for her perspective, the biggest reason is protecting the confidentiality of the candidates. Leo, do you want to say something more?
The only thing, I mean, the timing wise, and you maybe remember better than me that this would take an hour, but I do wonder, there are 50 resumes that we're gonna look at.
She's really clear. We asked her and she said it takes an hour, you book an hour and a half in case we run over, but she's never gone longer than an hour and a half on it.
So you must really skim over.
She's
the
very
ones that-
fast at
that
this
aren't
stage.
The ones,
Yeah, the ones that aren't much qualified
That
go
are-
by quick.
tier ones.
So those are the downsides to having the advisory folks involved at that stage. From my perspective, I see some big upsides to having folks involved at this stage. I think that the other stages of the process, we will not be getting to. When you look at this timeline, I'll pass out. The other stages are all gonna happen in April. I feel like it's a long time for the search committee folks to begin being involved, to be holding off that long before they begin in the process. And I like the idea of everyone on the advisory committee being involved from the start and having seen everything that came in. So the full pool of candidates is part of what they know. For me, with our goals of making things as transparent and inclusive as possible, I would prefer to have the advisory committee involved at this stage also. I think Leo's on the opposite camp. So that is the question to you all about, do we involve them at that stage or not? And it affects our planning. So it is something we should decide.
Yeah, in I'm in the opposite camp because I'm kind of looking towards SGR as being the pros in the room. This is their recommendation. I think it makes sense. And that's for the reasons she stated, they seem legitimate. She's done this a few times, I believe.
But she has been really clear that this is our choice, that she has done it both ways. Her recommendation is one, but she's done it both. So it is a question to us, correct? She reiterated today.
Anything that happens, I think, in the whole process is ultimately our decision.
Anyway, I'd like to hear from other counselors on where you'd like the search committee to get involved. I can also pass out, this is a possible calendar. Cornell has this also digitally. Just so you see, again, this is not SGR's calendar, so this is not something we're holding them to. This is me, having spoken with them, looked at the weeks coming up and figured out what some of the steps are and where about they're gonna fit in this process between March and April and into the beginning of May. You'll see that SGR will not commit to a timeline until we finalize the brochure, because they've had problems with towns who really bog down at the brochure stage. And if they've made a commitment to get to week 4 and the town won't finalize the brochure, they can't, right? So once they finalize it, which they believe I believe we can do on February 7th, our part as a council. If we do that, then they will list the job between February 12th and 15th, somewhere in there. And the next meeting that I have boldface there would just be council meeting to select our advisory committee. Then the council and the advisory committee, we would hold this meeting without SGR to review process, responsibilities, commitments, and sign non-disclosure agreements. So these are all things that would happen in March. Job listings, according to SGR, if we follow this schedule and get our part done by February 7th, job listings should close around March 13th or 14th, which would be the briefing to go from everyone who applied to semifinalists would be the middle of March. So if we involved the advisory committee on that stage, that's the middle of March. If we don't, and we don't bring them in till the next level, you'll see that's boldface, that comes in April, early April is the next stage. So anyway, I really would just need to hear your all opinions because we need to make a decision where the search committee is gonna first become involved in the process.
I personally, at this stage, with where we are as a council and with us trying to include the community as much as possible. Okay. If they were willing to do, if the people on the committee are like, yeah, I'm willing to spend an hour and a half going through this. I think that's good so that there's other people in the community who have been through the whole process and know that there wasn't something happened somewhere without them knowing. So that's what if they want to do it. If they don't want to do it, if they're like, no, we don't have time, let's just do the last 2 meetings, then the only value to having them involved in that is one, I want to hear like if they have some really strong opinion about a particular candidate, it'd be valuable to hear. And two, I want them to know what the process is and have other people in the community knowing this is what's going on and this is where they are. So I think that's valuable, and I think we have a really smart community who are on the community. They're really incredible people. So I'd like to have them involved, but
Thanks, Matt.
I'm not gonna die on that hill either.
Anyone else opinions?
How long does it take for them to, for this step, for them to be involved? Is it?
It's an hour-long meeting with Lissa. She said sometimes it might run over, so book an hour and a half, but it's an hour.
She'll present 50 or
50
70.
people in an hour. It's a speed thing.
I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I see Matt's point is that more inclusion, more involvement is good. But I do know that between now and when the committees begin to meet, we're going to have an election. We'll have at least one new council member. That is a great way to show the community that new voices, new opinions are, fresh eyes are looking at the process. Because it'll at least be my seat, right? And so I don't think if we decided to streamline the process and go with Lissa's recommendation, I don't think we're denying the voice because there is that opportunity to vote. Somebody that if you felt really strongly that you needed representation on that in council, you have the opportunity to vote. So I'll defer to whatever the consensus is, but I don't think we lose a lot by having an more efficient process.
Yeah, I don't have the world's strongest opinion on this either. I think I can see the process running great either way. I have a slight preference for having the committee involved earlier and a little bit more sort of inclusion that way. And even though, of course, the committee members can't go out and say, like, I saw the candidates and here's the one I liked the best. They can't do that, but what they can do is say, I was part of this process and I feel really good about, being part of it holistically. And that's a nice thing for those folks to be able to see and to feel.
Are we gonna see the whole pool?
Every candidate.
That's the meeting that's
That's the one we're
meeting
talking
about.
But we'll see the whole pool.
Yep.
And then the question is whether we ask the advisory committee to help call it down to 10 or 15, 75.
The question is whether they ever see the whole pool. If we don't involve them at this point, the advisory committee never sees the whole pool, nor do they help us get it down to 10 or 15.
I like the idea of, first of all, I'm not counting out write-in Wingard campaign to kind of maintain a little.
It could happen, Jeff.
I have.
But Write-ins can work. But I kind of like the idea of the broader committee getting a flavor of what the pool was. So they'll have, kind of where we started from and get their feedback on, if we have a challenge where, heaven forbid, we have a failed search or something like that. There's that context from start to finish that I think could be helpful. So I think I'm 60-40 on it. And, but I'd be inclined to have them involved right from the start.
So can you guys that are leaning slightly that way, just clarify, because the purpose of that, I would suggest is one, just to, I believe is just so we see them. And if something catches a counselor's eye, you can pull someone over. Are you suggesting that they have that same ability, if something catches their eye, to pull them over?
They don't have decision-making power, so I
That's
think
not-
what they would have is they'd have the ability to say, I feel strongly and strongly suggest that you pull this one over, and then we, as the council members who make these decisions, could, if one of us really wanted to honor that recommendation, we would be able to have that extra set of eyes providing the input that maybe that's appropriate.
Do they have to speak as an advisory committee, as one advisory committee, or will they just sort of be able to all offer input
We
however
can
they?
all ask
okay.
questions as the candidates come by.
But
Listen,
as far
Mr.
as what they're
We're
providing
getting
to
to that.
us.
That's coming next. That's a separate question.
Sorry.
One at a time,
Well,
Dan. I'm working us through it, because
it's-
otherwise we're never
kind
gonna
of the
get.
Same
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
Great.
It is good, yeah.
All right, so am I counting correctly that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of us in favor of involved in all 3 levels?
Yep.
1 against and 1 halfway in between?
I'll have strong-
Okay, I think we're at all 3, Leo. Do you agree? All right, we're at all 3. Number B, letter B done, on to letter C. Okay, so since SGR recommends against having the 8 to 10 person advisory group and the 7 people on council, so potentially 17 people, all trying to talk at the same time to each other about candidates. The options are, first, the advisory committee will have its own discussion. So that 8 to 10 people on the advisory search committee will have their own discussion at each level about the candidates. And there are 2 options. They meet completely on their own with Lissa there with them on Zoom. Lissa won't be here in person. Lissa takes notes and she reports back to us what their comments were. The second option is that we are all in one room together, counselors and the advisory committee, but the advisory committee has a discussion and we simply listen as counselors. We thank them for their time. We say, thanks for your input. If we really don't understand something, we can ask a question like, I didn't understand what you said. But otherwise we simply listen, we thank them, they leave, and we have our own meeting. But we get to watch their discussion. It's not filtered back through a report from Lissa. So we also need to decide how we want to handle that.
I strongly prefer number 2. I would like very much, when I sit in, if I come to a tree board meeting or planning board meeting, I just sit there and I listen and I learn, and I like that, so.
How do people feel about letting that advisory committee decide that? Just because we talked a little bit about this before about, are we trying to oversee something? Are we trying to put pressure? Or I don't know, would it be perceived that way? I don't have a strong feeling either way, other than that maybe it would be nice once that committee is chosen for them to decide, we'll do it, or we'd love to have you guys be flies on the wall. You know?
I think that empowers the committee.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm fine with letting the committee decide. Yeah, I'm personally curious to be a fly on the wall, and I sort of believe that the committee will be open to that, but I'm totally fine with letting the committee just decide how they'd like to operate.
Matt,
Yeah. I'd like to be there too, but also if the committee strongly does not want us to be there.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to be there as well, but just with that in mind, that maybe they want some autonomy there and to be able to come up with their recommendations.
That works for me, so.
So all of us would prefer to be there.
Yep.
I didn't say, but I would also. But we also feel like we'd be fine with putting that to the committee, but in what format? I mean, are we putting that to the committee in a secret vote? Or is it, I mean, this is not a committee that knows each other, that has any norms of meeting together, making group decisions. I mean, how are we putting that to them would be my question. I could envision a scenario where one very loud voice said, I don't want them there, and everybody else caves. Is that fine with us? Or would we only want it if it was a majority vote?
But if we included that question in the.
Next email back.
in the Formal invitation to the committee and say,
Yeah.
you know, be prepared to decide on, this would be the first order of business. You were gonna decide on your norms as a committee and, you know,
Yeah,
this is what you're gonna tell the council.
yeah.
Okay. Yep, I hope that they say yes. I think it would be better for us in terms of our ability to actually make informed decisions.
Yeah.
This is great, but there's no way that one person can give you the same impression you get from actually seeing something live. It's like, you know, watching the movie versus getting the little written synopsis is not the same thing. So, but I agree that people, it's great to hear what people want. So I think that's great, as long as everybody's good with that. So I'm gonna tell Alyssa that we're gonna assume that we're hopeful that we'll be able to be there as she's trying to plan her thinking. Does that sound appropriate? But that there is a chance that this committee itself might say no.
Yeah. If
And
the
they would like a
majority of the
different-
committee prefer us not to be there, we'll honor their
Okay.
wish on that.
And it is gonna go by majority.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we'll have some way that they can vote and maybe not have to vote in front of each other on that.
Yeah.
Since they don't even know each other yet, we'll figure that out. Okay,
We can just.
I can email the question and Cornell can get the answers, or someone who's not us, right? Okay,
Well, I mean, we just talked about, we have very smart people in this community. I do think they're probably capable
it's
of
not,
of being able to
Yeah.
have a discussion and make a decision of that magnitude.
I think so, but Leo, I also think it's really hard. Some people are of a very big presence and it can be very, very hard for other people and you don't even know them to, like, you know, speak up strongly against that when you're in brand new situations. I don't know. I can see that either way. Are we good? We're good? Onward? Okay, yay. Composition of committee is D. This is an initial discussion. Obviously, anyone and everyone, please apply if you're interested.
Oh.
But I think we should begin talking about, like, what might we be looking for to be sure we have enough diversity? Did everyone not get the backside? Did I?
Yeah, mine did turn on the
Oh,
backside.
sorry, here's one. Did anyone else not get the back?
Thanks.
I think it's important that we start having a discussion about what we want to see to be sure we have the biggest diversity that we would like on that committee. One thing I'd like to start by talking about is, staff. Like, it's really important to me that we have a good number of staff on that committee. So if we're looking at a committee of 8 to 10, and then I want to hear from everybody else. I mean, I would ideally love to see 4 staff on there, 2
Yeah.
senior staff and 2 junior staff, like to have a significant chunk on that committee.
I think 50% of a search committee for Orono's town manager is a lot to devote to staff.
Okay, so slightly less than
I
that.
think so, but
You think 4 is 50%?
if it's 8,
8 to 10,
Oh,
8 to
okay.
10.
I'll go head to head with you on math all day,
You're
especially
thinking,
with my computer in front of me.
you're thinking more than 2 or 3 staff?
2 to 3, yeah, 2 to 3.
Hmm.
What other thoughts about that, or other thoughts on what other groups we want to have?
And then maybe, I mean, would a member of the staff be able to be, they obviously have to sign confidentiality things and stuff like that, but are they gonna be able to, I mean, I assume that there'd be a process that they'd be able to report back to their colleagues and stuff like that, not on the specifics, but just to kind of, I don't know.
Everything's pretty confidential
Yeah.
that in all those meetings, so I don't think there's much anyone's going to be able to say, except it's happening, we're going,
Yeah.
and we're moving along.
Yeah.
At any rate. Other thoughts about what kind of, I mean, I know in the past, there's been an effort to be sure there was some representation when the RSU has had searches from, like, they've wanted council representation. I think it's gone the other way. The council's asked for RSU representation. Is that something we feel is important?
In the last time this happened, I was the RSU representative to the search committee. We had one person from the RSU who was a designate.
So that was staff or council or board,
No, it was one RSU committee member.
Board member.
but a board member?
Board member,
Okay.
yes.
I think
And then, I'm sorry. Then we also had another individual who was a teacher, but his position on the search committee was because he was a resident and being a teacher was incidental to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the subject of schools that, a representative from the university and a student voice feel like things I'd like to have considered.
So potentially two people from the university?
I don't necessarily see students as being like from the university person.
Okay, a demographic of folks who live in town.
They're, I
Okay.
think, a really important demographic, folks who live in town. Disproportionately aren't represented in some other ways, so.
What else? See people like.
Is your thought admin as far as the stat admin or? Well, because obviously we have people that feel like community member slash,
Yeah.
and I do think, well, I guess if they're a student, it should also be a community member.
Yes,
Most are living within the Orono confines, I think, but
yeah, I think it could be a student who's a resident of the town. Or yeah, that would be. And in terms of university representation, I guess I have a strong opinion whether that's a university administrator versus another community member who also happens to teach at the university. But I would see some value to having someone who is in an administrative role.
What else? What else would we ideally like?
I would build somebody who's in a business.
I'd like to just see different age demographics
Yeah.
represented. So someone who might be over 65 and someone who might be, you mentioned younger. I mean, students aren't always younger, but
Yeah.
a lot of them are.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see a range on that, hopefully. People who have kids, people who are, long past that stage of life, if they ever had them.
Yeah, I
Um,
think like. Homeowner versus renter are kind of two things too that, I think it would be nice if at least one member of the committee, is someone who, is a renter and can speak to that perspective, because I do. It's often the case that committees get skewed a little bit toward just your homeowners.
Anything else people are thinking of?
I had a conversation with a town resident who lives on the southern end of Route 2, and she expressed that they often feel a little bit forgotten. And I know we had some folks from Bushaw Lake area that kind of said the same thing to us. So some outreach to the community beyond the village center might be nice.
People off the water,
Yeah,
sewer,
yeah.
yeah.
Who don't get public services.
Yeah.
Anything else people would especially see because we'll be moving into those discussions, next month. And so I want us to start thinking and we don't have to, obviously these are decisions will be made when we actually have a list of people in front of us. So the people who are putting their hats in the ring will get a follow-up email at some point. I'm happy to be the one that sends it, but more than anything, we need to know what it's gonna say. So some people have only verbally expressed their interest. So I would like when the email goes out to be clear, like, we would like just a couple sentences about why you'd like to serve and what perspective you bring. But if there's anything specific, like I'm not sure anyone's gonna tell us if they're a homeowner or a renter, for example.
Yeah.
So like, if we wanna know that, we're probably gonna have to ask. I don't think that's something probably people would necessarily share in a couple sentences, so.
that honestly seems like a little bit of a double-edged ask to me as well.
Yeah, and I think that. In some ways, like pre-prescribing categories of people feels a little.
Right.
Artificial, like
Yeah.
there's gonna be the folks who wanna step forward and we want them to be as representative of. We wanna pull together a pool that's as representative of the town as possible, but also. I don't wanna be overly prescriptive and saying there must be. X person.
Yeah, we can't really do that. We can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even possible.
To that point, we have more than we need.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a good starting point for an executive session to say, okay, let's pick these and now what do we think's really missing?
Yeah.
And then we do kind of end up prescribing a little bit, but if there's some major underrepresentation that, because we've had, there's something to be said for those that have raised their hand and that have volunteered. Granted, they may just be more in the know, but There's also something to be said for that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know,
But
that might be a thought of a way to go about this. Because the other thing, I feel like the way we're doing it, we're getting categories and numbers, and we're gonna have 25 people here in a minute. If we keep-
Hopefully people will overlap on
Yeah,
categories.
yeah,
A good bit, it
hopefully
is
there's-
Orono. We do tend to do that. So I'm hoping that that will work. But so if you look at the possible calendar I put out, you know, I put tentatively that we would have some executive session to select search advisory committee in February. So the dates that are possible, I can imagine for that are we meet on February 12th, we meet on February 26th on Mondays. We have a Wednesday, the 21st search committee meeting. We could make that a special council meeting and add an executive session. I guess I'm thinking we should do this on the sooner side.
Yeah.
If we think that we're gonna make some
Make some
selections and then reach out further.
I'd be in favor of
So-
the 12th, which I think is the soonest one.
The soonest one I have is the 12th.
Yeah.
Cornell, I don't know if that's possible, or Jeff, like, is it possible to have an executive session to have this discussion
Yeah,
on the 12th?
Talk to Cornell tomorrow about that because we have our agendas are
That's what I
filling
thought.
quickly, so.
Okay.
I'll-
But-
Yeah, worst case, we do a special on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that on a Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could. That's Wednesday, the 21st, because I didn't think we all wanted to meet on Valentine's Day, which is the 14th.
Oh,
If we do, I'm happy to be here. But I'm just asking. I thought we'd try to skip that one if we could.
Try and keep our.
If we
relationships
stay on
intact.
track.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so I think that does mean though that I will send a follow-up email very quickly now to everyone on the list who's volunteered, who hasn't yet sent me their couple sentence thing about why they would like to serve, and ask them to do that. Is everyone comfortable with me doing that?
Yeah.
Can you send it to us on what? how
The
you
text would
phrase the
be, I
question?
can. Do everyone want to see that or just you, Leo?
I don't need to see it.
Leo, all right, Leo and I will do that together.
Perfect.
Sound good? Okay. Leo and I will-
So is the 7th out for some reason?
So, the February 7th meeting is when we'll be finalizing the brochure and all the job description. I guess we could do it then. I hadn't known if we would be ready that soon.
Wait. Ready to do this with the,
Ready for us to
Volunteers.
make the search advisory committee decision, mostly because I'm pretty overwhelmed with Lissa's visit and everything I have happening, but if the rest of you aren't, I mean, I'm really in the weeds on that, so I may feel more overwhelmed than other people. If other people feel like we could do that, the 7th is a Wednesday. Jeff, if you think we can't fit it in on the 12th, then maybe we try to do an executive session on the 7th and make
I
that a
think
special
That
committee
would
meeting.
probably be
Better?
better.
Okay.
because that-
Sure.
Yeah,
Got it. So preferably, Cornell, we're looking at maybe making the 7th a special council meeting so that we could add an executive session and talk about the search committee.
10-4.
is that what this?
10-4,
is that-
okay,
Great.
yeah. So then we'll get on that email quickly, Leo.
Sweet.
Okay, great, we're going great, we're on to E. So, just in terms of, I guess we don't have to decide this one tonight, but I would like some initial thoughts. When are we predicting it? I think one thing I need to put in this email to the search committee folks is some people may take themselves out of the running once they have a sense of what night we'd be meeting and how many meetings there would be. Ideally, I would have loved to have dates for those meetings, but we won't have those. Lisa said, I do think we need to think about, are we planning to do these on Wednesday nights as we move forward? We certainly aren't going to have time at regular Monday council meetings for these. We'll be into budget season at some point. Wednesday seems to be a time when council seem mostly to be able to come. Are we hoping to keep these on Wednesdays? And so I could tell people in the email, they would need to be able to commit to Wednesday evening meetings. A few of them.
Well, this
Three
is
of them.
barely evening. We start-
Right, so we may have to start later is the other
Yeah.
question. How do people feel on Wednesdays in general? What schedule? I don't know. We need to have
Yeah,
this is important for
Um,
people's committing, right?
Wednesdays later are tough for me. Tuesday would be a better day for an evening meeting.
Or Tuesdays for other people?
I just,
You.
Yeah.
Jeff doesn't care.
I don't care.
Oh,
I care about it in one way, in that we know that meeting later in the evening requires a staff person to be here. And so the extent that now we're stacking up evenings, right? The more we can consolidate that, especially front load it early in the week when we might have some extra capacity with Cornell here.
Right. My concern is how do we weigh that versus community members who many of them may not be able to participate then if we're starting before people are out of work.
Oh, yeah, well,
That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to weigh.
Can that be maybe one of the responses, like, I mean, one of the things we're sending him now, can you tell us if which of these blocks do?
I'd be happy to give them a couple of blocks, but I need a couple of blocks from you all, is what I'm saying. So,
Let's propose Wednesday afternoons as a time.
okay, from,
Can we propose Tuesday afternoons or Tuesday evenings? Does anyone else have a Tuesday conflict?
I'm okay with Tuesdays. How are you, Leo?
And that
Matt?
is nice because it's earlier in the week too.
So I'd propose Tuesdays 4 to 5:30, Wednesdays, or Tuesdays also perhaps 5:30 to 7.
maybe we have 4 options or 5:30 to 7 option.
Right. Wednesday, we already heard though, we have at least
Yeah,
one
and
counselor who couldn't
If-
do
if
5:30 to
it's-
7.
I mean,
So
if it's just a couple of meetings, then I can rearrange my work.
okay, so am I proposing Tuesdays 4 to 5:30, Tuesdays 5:30 to 7, Wednesdays 4 to 5:30, and Wednesdays 5:30 to 7 as possible times?
Yeah.
All right,
Just an aside, Tuesday nights in here.
Yeah.
Once a month, you have a DEI
Yeah.
committee
Yes.
meeting, and once a month you have a tree board meeting.
so there's only 2 Tuesdays that are
Yeah,
possible.
They're not the same Tuesdays though,
Yeah.
so.
And those
that's
meetings
Tuesday.
both start at 5 or 6? When do they start?
Yeah, 6 and then 5 to 6:30 for tree board.
Okay,
Now, are those
so with the.
immovable on either
Yeah.
of those?
Established, I think. At any rate, Leo, I mean, these don't need to happen every week. This is with the advisory committee. They're gonna be a
Yeah.
couple of times. So maybe it would still be possible to arrange them. We might have to shift our schedule slightly later and it may push things would be the problem. So Wednesdays do seem like a more open day, although on Wednesdays, we also have planning board once a month.
Once a month.
Correct.
But it's
So-
later.
It's.
That's
still-
Later in the month.
6 o'clock. No, it's 9.
Oh,
6 o'clock.
All right, so I will ask people to give us a few sentences. I will reiterate if they haven't already told us their name and address and phone number and email. For some people, we only have parts of those things. I have an email, I think, for everyone. I will ask about these times, whether they are possible, these 4, and we will go from there.
Yeah.
Does that feel good? Can I cycle back on
Can't be
the?
perfect, I
Right.
guess, so.
Can I cycle back just to the composition of the committee question for a minute? This is a question for Cornell, really, I think. So one thing I would say, looking at who's put their name in so far, what I haven't seen a lot of so far is staff members. So I have some, but maybe staff are not interested in participating, but I also want to know, how do we make it as easy as possible for staff to participate if they would like to? I don't know. I know I was once in a situation like this in a different job, and I didn't feel able to put my name in unless my supervisor had told me it was okay. So I'm curious for because I'd like to see both senior staff and non-senior staff ideally on the committee, I don't know about anyone else, but has it been made clear to especially non-senior staff that their supervisors would fully support them doing this? And have they been told it would be hours they'd be paid for, or that they would get comp time for? Or how do we make it as easy as possible for all staff to be able to put their name forward if they want to?
I think I'd need to put a note out to that effect. I don't think we've done that. I think it's just been, just a blanket. Any staff that are interested in participating as an advisory committee member, put your name into the hat. I think there's only one or is there 2?
I
I
think
thought
there's
there was
just
only-
one.
I think there's just one, yeah. So I can do that next week.
That would be great, especially if we're looking to have this meeting on the 7th, the sooner the better to get that out to staff and make it as easy as possible for any staff who are willing to give their time and this huge service to us and bring that really valuable perspective, to let them know how much supported that would be.
Will do.
Thank you.
And people can have comp time for service on the committee? Like,
I'm
is that-
okay with that. I don't know what Cornell, he's in
It's-
charge of staff.
Yeah, it's his job, not our job.
It's not our job.
Well, it would just be paid time. And if they work beyond their workday, then yes, it would be comp time.
Thank you. Good. Do we feel good about the discussions on this? Hey, all right. We're doing good.
I couldn't find, is there a schedule somewhere for next Tuesday that you've shared with us that I can't find in the Google Drive, so I don't know if I apologize, because I got here a couple minutes late, so.
Yeah, could I share it later, or is
Yeah,
it
if
something you need to weigh in on right now?
No, I thought it had already been, I thought that's what you discussed before I got here, so.
We did, but I'm happy to.
Okay.
Or maybe someone else could share it if Matt's
Yeah,
got it.
thank
Will
you
Matt-
very
Is
much.
that okay? Would
Yeah,
that
it's
be okay,
perfect.
Dan?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got it.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so that was a search advisory committee process. Is there anybody who hasn't told Matt whatever they need to about photos that are in the shared drive for possibly the brochure? This is your final window and we don't want to take much time. Thumbs up, Matt. They look good?
Sorry to get you any calls.
No golfing, Leo.
What it is.
Okay. So are we good on number 3? Photo drive is approved because SGR is already making, the ideas of graphic layout, even without yet knowing what the text will be. The text will depend on the community meeting. So come to the community meetings next week.
If there is a picture you could scrape off their website, it'd be nice to show like their sign or something. Not stuff out,
Golf.
PVCC.
There's a golf, there's one where there was a picture of the golf course with stuff. It wasn't their sign.
Okay.
Dan and people who are better at social media sorts of things, is the quality of pictures that are pulled off Facebook generally good enough to print in these kind of brochures or not? Because we've had a few groups say, pull any photo you want off our Facebook page, but I haven't been clear if the quality of those
It's
are
been
often
nice.
not
I've
that
had
high.
some excellent.
Okay.
ones.
Depends. So send them to SGR and SGR will figure it out.
I mean, one thing you run into is if someone, you're using someone's picture without their permission and on a. So that's, I don't know what the status of permission is on any of these. That would be my one caution, but otherwise,
If the person who runs the Facebook group has said, we have permission for these and you can use them, is that enough permission?
it feels like enough for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those like, you apologize, you end up apologizing after and.
I've gotten permission from every picture that I sent that for the most part, was people facing except for maybe some, the pop-up.
Yeah, we all had, yeah. Okay, great. Photos are great. Thanks, Matt, for doing that. SGR is already looking at them and beginning to think about layouts.
No, the pictures look great. You said the other thing, okay.
Okay,
Hey, Sarah, just thinking again about the employee, if we paid them comp time, they'd be the only person on the committee basically being paid to be there. I think if the committee meets during the day, that it'd be work time and that's fine, but if the committee meets at night, they'd be just like every other person on the committee taking time to provide service to the community. I'm not sure it should be comp time is what I'm saying.
is comfort with
I
that?
would tend to agree with that, of course.
I think, well, my thought was, I mean, they're here because they're a staff. They what if they live in Old Town? I mean, I get it that they're volunteering their time, they're paid to work for Orono. And if they're willing, I just worry that if it's a volunteer thing. I don't know. I mean, you know better than I do. That was my thought. They're here because of their staff role and that's something they're compensated for, so they should be compensated in time for, that's just my thought, but.
I feel
Okay,
comfortable with it.
well, let me just think about it some more.
Yeah. Do you want to hear from anyone else, or do you just want to think? For me, I feel comfortable. I think they have a different role and their role is paid all the time, here at Orono. And those of us who are community members, we are never paid for our service. We volunteer things all the time in town. Council gets paid some very minimal amount. We get $1,000 a year or something, but nobody else gets paid at all. We volunteer on committees because it's our town and we live here and we're trying to build it. Whereas for staff, it's their job. Feels different to me, but anyone else?
Yeah, I think, Cornell to make a decision that seems best to him as our interim manager, but I agree, I don't have any sort of aspersions or hangups about offering comp time for someone who's giving the perspective of someone in a staff role.
Whatever you decide, Cornell.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
As easy as possible, because I know it's a big ask for them to have worked a whole day and then stay to do something at night. Okay,
So
what now? You good?
What?
No, I didn't mean it that way.
I didn't mean it to- how I said it.
Sorry,
Um,
sorry.
So town manager full search, where is I have the calendar, but I'm just on.
I haven't put it in here yet.
Where'd you say you keep it?
It's a shared Google,
I'm gonna share. it with
Sheet.
you.
Okay,
so it's in
not
your
here.
shared Google Sheets. I shared it with all of you. And I never dropped it in
Titled
here.
Possible SGR 2-day visit schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's now been confirmed, so I could take possible off, but
As long as I know.
that is the title. It's in this sheets. Okay, and it's the one I brought you yesterday.
I have it.
It's been changed.
I know,
Okay.
I have it,
I
but
just sent it to you again.
Are we good? Does everybody have it?
2 days, I see it. Shoot.
Sorry, Leo,
So sometime between now and next Monday, you'll let us know, like,
what your time is gonna be.
Okay.
I'll be emailing you all to say what exact time can you do your 20-minute individual slot? And
a lot of work.
Yeah.
You're,
I know,
you're
But
a
I think I
champion. for
I
doing
put
this.
slots where I was pretty convinced some of us have daytimes more free and others of us have later afternoons more free. So I'm fairly convinced that everybody can fit into one of those slots from
You already have
preliminary
me at
discussions.
lunch, So.
So,
I'm good.
right, we're good. Dan, if you want to just send me, in fact, everybody can just do it right now. Look at those 2 slots and when you get out of the meeting, send to me which of them are possible for you and then I will put you in and email you back.
And
Sound good?
I think I'm taking the Tuesday, did you already say that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're doing
Did you
the
already say that?
Tuesday tour
Well,
dinner.
I was.
I
looking at
didn't,
something.
I didn't
Oh,
say it.
okay.
Is that what
I'm
you're
doing
gonna
the
say?
Tuesday at 4:30 and
Yeah.
taking to LBC.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
have her for-
But they're not open.
they're not open? All
No,
right.
it's a tour.
Yeah,
Doesn't
you
mean
go.
we can't do samples.
All right, we're good. Are we
They're
good?
open Till Wednesday, I know that.
All right, can we go on now?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay,
Go on.
I know OBC's 10.
I'm like toying with Sarah a little bit.
I know, give me a break. All right, number 4, summary data about the survey data. Sonia just sent us that this afternoon. I'm guessing most people probably didn't get a chance to look at it yet, but it was great, I thought. And Sonia, do you want to say anything about it? I do have one printed copy. If other people want to see it, maybe Mitch can make us copies. I only literally hit print on my way out the
Is
door.
that shared in here too, same place?
Sonia sent it in
I
an
just
email
sent it
today,
An email this afternoon.
like right before the meeting.
Yeah, yes, it was at the 9th hour. I have also shared, this with Lisa. If there are any updates that we need to make, I can do that and send her a note saying that it's been updated, but it felt helpful to get her this information, because I know she had asked, about the survey data. So, yeah, I briefly said, here's what we did and the methods, and then highlighted sort of the key findings that we talked about last time. And then included a little bit of the sort of summary data so that if Lisa or anyone from SGR wants to go back and pull more detailed numbers or see the data contextualized, they have some ability to use. So that's kind of all this.
Looks good.
It's really
Thank
great.
you.
Sonia, are there any graphic representations that, like, if SGR is building a brochure? My only question was, like, I don't know, is there any graphic representation, like little pie chart thing or whatever that is useful, do you think, out of that data?
There's nothing that like occurs to me
Okay.
looking at this that I would automatically be like, this is the graphic you need. I think kind of highlighting keywords is more what this data is probably good for, but I can chat with Alyssa about it when Matt and I are meeting with her for a different purpose tomorrow, but I'll see that, and if she has any requests for something in that regard, that would be useful.
And you said you are sharing the rest, not all of the raw data, but the rest of the data that we had that Pete provided for us,
Yes.
right?
And I would,
This is summer.
I'm actually really hoping that we're gonna have one more discussion somewhere as a council about that, so I'd like to figure that out too. I really would like a council discussion where, although we've each been able to read through every individual response, it would be nice to have some group discussion as a council about what we're seeing when we read that and have Sonia facilitate that, which would need to be, again, an executive session, so maybe we could do that at the same time. I think the personal comments, Jeff, you're thinking it's not some of those comments. We said that they couldn't be shared publicly
Right.
because we were afraid some of them might be revealing, but
No,
we could have a general discussion
No,
about.
I agree. I just think that's a huge discussion to try to have on February 7th. I think like that's really should become part of the council's visioning and goal setting process. I think that data is more valuable than a lot of the stuff that we've just generated on our own sitting in a room.
It will fit into, I know, to the strategic plan, but I guess I would want to read it through once with an eye toward the manager search, not to have the full discussion on it I don't know, we can maybe think more about that. Do other people have thoughts? I mean, typically, I think when I've been involved in these kind of groups before and we've had open-ended questions like that, we have had some discussion about what's come back in those open-ended questions and people's impressions from that. How they relate to the search process.
Yeah.
But
It seems to me as though we do have some time before it's like, we've got the applications to review.
Right.
And so
Later.
to me, this feels like it could be a topic for a later Wednesday search committee, and we can put together an executive session sometime before we're getting busy with applications, but after reviewing this sort of initial question, getting over the materials out.
I think you're right on that. And also you might have noticed on the possible schedule, which again is possible, things get quiet, right? For us, once
Yeah.
the job goes out
Exactly.
on this front. Once the job's listed, we have from February 12th to March 13th or so with not too much else going on here, except getting the advisory committee together once to talk about norms and sign non-disclosures and all of that. So maybe in that window, Sonia?
Sure.
Okay,
Good.
great. Okay,
Hey,
The
Matt,
next-
can I do lunch with you? Lunch in the tour. Perfect.
town manager job description is number 5 to talk about. So did everyone see the annotated job description that came back from Melissa Barker? That was what we should really be looking at tonight.
And that was in your email
Yep,
from,
I can pull it up. I think. I first sent you the 2 ones we already had from staff, which were from 2003 and 2009. And then I think later that same day,
20,
there came another one where Alyssa had sent me hers by then and I sent it out.
Yes, yesterday.
so 23rd.
I did get a chance to look in advance of this meeting, but I'm pulling it up now.
Yeah, maybe let's all pull that up because this is, I think, what we should start our discussion based on. And I might have just lost my internet connections.
I don't know, promo materials for community, is that?
Hold on a second, Leah. I'm not connected, so I'm not gonna be able to help. I have to get reconnected. Can somebody help Leo out who's already connected?
It's the first email to you.
What's it called?
Well, the email from Sarah is from yesterday at 1:43 PM. Oh, yes. And it's regarding agenda items for Wednesday search committee meeting. So it came at 1:43 yesterday. And I'm forwarding it to you again.
Wait, I got it. They come up. They send it to me.
My connection is still not working.
Think your internet's faster than mine. I've got fiber, as you know.
I'm on public Wi-Fi.
Although,
It usually lets us right in.
I can't tell what Orono Vista Cornell has in that picture behind him.
While we're all
Study
doing this,
there.
do we want to ask Pete, is there anyone online?
Oh, yeah.
And do they have any comments or questions at this point?
What a great idea.
No hands raised at this time. We do have people watching.
Thank you. Okay. Did you find it,
I
Leo?
got it.
Oh,
So, go ahead, Dan, forward
no,
it to me.
you're on so many because, um, it was yesterday at 1:40. What did you say?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It's in the same email chain as the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Okay.
Agenda items for Wednesday search committee meeting.
Okay, so did everyone now have it? Okay, so you can see that Melissa has made some suggested edits and had some questions to us. So some of her questions are, it's really important in this job description. Alyssa has explained really well some of the most important things. And one of them is to be really clear that who the person reports to and who reports to them, which relationships are supervisory and peer relationships. So these categories were very important for her to take a look at, and she has some questions. You'll see under relationships, there's a question, does the attorney report to the council? And under supervisory responsibility, you'll see a bolded question, does the town assessor and town clerk report to the council or to the manager? I certainly want to hear from Cornell on this. I do know that I looked at the charter 1.1.3A, which talks about these roles. And there, the language there is that the town council shall appoint the town manager, town attorney, and then goes on to a lot of boards that we appoint. Whereas the town manager shall appoint the town clerk, the treasurer, the tax collector, the town assessor. So to me, this seemed real clear that the town clerk and the town assessor would report to the town manager, and probably the attorney would report to the town council, but I would like to see to Cornell whether I'm correct on that.
Usually the council appoints the town attorney and the auditor. So I think Matt has mentioned that the town attorney works for the council, but most of his dealings are through the manager to, carry out the issue at hand. But council is the appointee of the town attorney and the auditor. I suppose you could just refer to the charter section so candidates could go look. I would think most candidates would check out the charter, but because it seemed odd that town manager reports to and works closely with the council.
So if we were to send this paragraph of the charter back to Lissa with an answer that the town assessor and the town clerk are appointed by and report to the town manager, and the town attorney is appointed by and reports to the council.
Well, it's just this is the next page. It talks about supervisory responsibility, and it says the town manager works closely with the town assessor, town clerk.
Right.
Boards.
Why it picks out those two.
And I, one, town manager reports to and works closely with the town council. They work closely also with the town attorney. I mean, I think realistically, the town manager works closer with the town, works more closely with the town attorney during conducting business than we ever do.
That's actually what that means, Leo. The they refers to the town manager, I think, so as not to be gendered. But we could change that to he, she, there, if you wanted.
I'd actually prefer to change. There
All
was
of them
he,
to
she
they.
elsewhere in here, and I prefer to change it to they.
That, do we want they language for the town manager?
I prefer that.
Anyone else?
No, I just want to share that prior to this year, when we've had probably more contact with our attorneys than the town council regularly has. Normally, it has been almost the sole responsibility of the manager to report on issues that the town attorney has risen. And then, should the town attorney feel like he needs direct contact, he usually has coordinated that through the town council chair for an invitation to report to council, because it seems cumbersome to have an attorney trying to contact 7 people for a meeting. So I don't know if that has to be specified in there, but
Connection is really to the council chair for the attorney.
yeah.
All right. Are folks comfortable with us following up with Lissa to let her know that here's the part of the charter that addresses this, and it's the assessor and the clerk report to the town manager, are appointed by and report to the town manager?
If it's really confusing, the they, you can just put. I
Just
know it's
keep repeating the
repetitive,
title.
But just
Yeah.
say the town manager. Works closely.
We can keep the
Because
title,
they is in singular should be they works closely.
right?
And,
So, okay,
clarify it, but that's also.
go ahead.
Does
Leo.
it have to get in there? Are we worried about it getting in there that we appoint or no?
I think it just helps, and citing the charter, I think, is very wise, what Cornell said, asking to cite the charter and putting a link in ideally to the actual paragraph. I think Lissa said it's very important to candidates to be really clear on what the chain of command is and what goes where.
Yep,
So-
those are the rules. That's what we should
Right.
put into it.
So, all right, Good, we can move on from that. So the next question I have on here, and y'all may have more, so if I'm missing, does someone have questions on the first page? Jeff, I know you had some really good points, but I don't know where you want to bring those up
Yeah.
now or later. I don't know.
Well, I have.
Because you have to
leave in-
go, so I'm thinking
If
now.
I asked,
Yeah.
I made two comments to Sarah. One, I think, one of the things, because we live in a rural area, is that our town manager needs to have a driver's license. They often go to meetings out of town. It's not specified in here. If they don't have a main license, they should be able to acquire one or obtain one, however that gets worded. The other thing is the town has made a huge investment in DEIB training and implementation over the past several years. The last time our description was written, it didn't include that, and I don't think that that needs to be explored or explained in the document, but I do think it is one of the qualities that we would expect in an experienced town manager. So I would maybe include that as a line in there, but I don't know that we have to specify exactly what a DEIB charge is for manager.
But expertise in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging issues.
Something that
Issues of-
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems standard for administrative jobs, standard language for most people.
So driver's license and that.
That's all I.
Other things folks have noted?
I also need to dash out of this meeting a few minutes early, but in general, I didn't have exact edits, but I'll share a little bit of a philosophical perspective before I ditch, which is that when in doubt, I prefer not to specify like this position requires specific degree without also saying or equivalent experience, because to me, a candidate that has translatable skills and translatable experience and has really excellent leadership capabilities and could kind of like easily learn some of the particularities should be, I'd like to encourage and consider those applicants in addition to people who maybe have X years of experience as town manager or X particular degrees. I'd like to cast a little bit of a wider net looking for sort of management excellence writ broad, and of course, experience in town management specifically is a plus, but I don't want to be overly restricted in how this is. That is my little philosophical moments before I ditch. Thank you all.
Okay, Sonia, before you ditch, could we jump quickly to the scheduling of next meetings question at the very end of the
Okay.
agenda, very fast, just in case there's
Very
anything that matters?
Yep.
I was gonna suggest that we not meet next Wednesday because we have both the candidate here Tuesday night and Thursday is candidates night. And I
Great.
think that's a lot in 1 week. So we would go 2 weeks to our next meeting. Would be
That's
February
perfect.
7th. And I'm hoping at that one we'll be efficient enough that we won't need one on the 14th and we could jump a week again.
Great.
Does that seem acceptable to people if we'll try?
Good
Okay.
goal.
Jeff and Sonia, on your way out the door, I'm gonna say this one because I think it fits in with what Sonia said, where my concern on the resume was to be sure, I mean, the job description was to be sure that we took out language that says required unless we are 100% sure it's required.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you really can get sued for hiring someone who didn't have a specific thing that said required and someone else who applied did, you know?
Yeah.
So I really want to be sure that we don't use mandatory or required unless we're really convinced it's mandatory and
I
required.
think
Preferred is what I would
and,
like.
And the phrase
Or
or
equivalent.
equivalent experience are great phrases, personal.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
All right,
Bye.
thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
To that end, if you all want to take a look at the second page, that's where we see some of the required language. Which I'd like to ask that we put into preferred or add what Sonia said or equivalent experience. For example, we see under education, the position requires a bachelor degree in public administration or related field.
Uh-oh.
I'd be happy to say it requires a bachelor degree if that's what we want, but I don't want to specify the field because I think someone could have studied French and then got a master's degree in public administration. That'd be fine by me.
Is this thing open for edits?
I don't think so.
All right, because I just think I edited it.
Oh, it's not my document.
Maybe it's
This is,
mine.
it could be open. I don't know.
Well,
So,
back to Sonia's thing, I mean, even. Isn't that a place where that we would insert that or?
I think it,
I just wouldn't put a subject for a bachelor's degree. In my case, I wouldn't, but a
You would
position
put
requires a
public admin.
bachelor degree, public
Oh.
administration or related field preferred, right?
This is all,
Yeah, I just sort of put in all the language. If you guys are comfortable, I'm gonna take a stab at this where we take out anywhere that says required or mandatory, except for things we truly believe are required or
Yeah.
mandatory. I'm gonna change everything or work with Lissa to change everything to either preferred or to have a phrase that says or equivalent experience. So my real question is there something that's an exception that is truly required? Like, is a driver's license truly required? Is anything in specific actually required? That's not, Jeff is just asking to add it.
This is,
So
I think
some-
that. So you would say, instead of saying the position requires a bachelor's degree in public, you'd say the position prefers a
I'd say
bachelor's.
the position requires a bachelor's degree. And then because I think we are requiring a bachelor's degree. That was something I thought requiring a bachelor's was okay, but I wouldn't want to require what they majored in. Right? So the position requires a bachelor degree, public administration or related field preferred. Right? I mean, I don't know. Are we willing to consider someone without a bachelor's degree? I feel like that's a bottom line for me, but if it's not, other people are,
I mean, I guess if someone's been a town manager for 20 years,
they wouldn't have it, so we fine. Okay,
Still,
so
I would say yes, but
But you say the position requires a bachelor degree or,
related, equivalent related
Equivalent,
experience.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Master's degree preferred, public administration or related field preferred. Are we good?
mhm.
Basically, I'm just gonna go through and
Yeah.
work on the language to make everything say preferred or equivalent related experience. On the one about expertise in financial management, which is partway through that paragraph, budgeting, debt service and bond ratings, along with comprehensive knowledge of federal, state and local laws. That's another one that says required. I mean, we could certainly say expertise in some of these things required if that we want to, expertise in financial management, budgeting. I mean, I'm not sure that I want to say state and local laws, because if someone's coming from California, they may not have our state and local laws at this point, and I wouldn't want to eliminate them, so.
but I mean, in two, if we're gonna go out of our way to make the front end open-ended around the degree type and things like that. If this is the expertise in financial management, budgeting, debt service and bond ratings. Expertise in those fields or an ability to work with people who have expertise in those fields is sort of my,
Or
agree-
just, I
yeah.
mean, is that a place for just strongly preferred again? Is that what you're thinking, Sarah, or?
Well, I mean, I'm open to what you all think. For me, I think I'd be good with saying expertise in certain things required, or if you want to add a language, about or to work with folks with that expertise, that's fine. I think financial management, budgeting, and federal employment law are kind of a given that you have to have pretty much expertise in to do this job. I think debt service and bond ratings and state and local laws, you might not need to know as much about and could work with, people who knew them here to come up to speed. But that's me.
The only reason that may not be a given is because obviously some cities and towns are gonna have HR people that are probably the experts in that.
Yes.
Okay, so you'd like the whole thing to say expertise in these areas or what, Dan?
You
What's
could
your-
say, demonstrated capacity to lead, yeah, demonstrated capacity to lead, to oversee.
Working knowledge of
Yeah.
this type, or is that too big?
I don't know. I think we could get into a lot of wordsmithing. What I think I'd like is a general consensus that what we're looking for is to avoid, it sounds like,
Yeah.
required or mandatory, and to move toward preferred or equivalent related experience or
Yeah,
capacity to lead and work with others. I don't know with its
Yeah.
expertise. If someone else wanted to take a look at this, if Matt or Dan had the time to do it, we're gonna have a discussion on Monday with Lissa here about this job description. So we really should look at this language before Monday so that we can have a draft that can go to Lissa that she can look at and we can all be looking at on Monday to really firm this up, because this will hold up the job listing if we don't finish this, right? Lissa can't put the job listing out until the brochure is done and the job description is done. So,
I'd love to, I'm gonna be gone this weekend and I'm getting ready for that.
right, so I can try, but,
I'll look at it tonight and send you something.
all right, so Dan and I will take that on together.
Yep.
Is everyone comfortable with that? It'll come back to us on Monday, but I just wanted a consensus that we were going in the direction everyone wanted with that. We're good? Okay,
I just mentioned
Any-
that regarding requiring a bachelor's degree, I mean, Orono is the home to the flagship university. It seems like requiring a bachelor's degree is,
Bar.
yeah, it seems like you ought to require it. But my 2
It's
cents.
fine. I'm good. with
And down at towards the end of that paragraph, talks about city administrator. Fix that, and I don't think you need debt service or bond rating expertise.
So you were agreeing with what I said, Cornell, that debt service, bond rating, and immediate expertise in local and state laws would not be required for sure, but that financial budgeting and federal law are more important.
I think financial management and budgeting are good. And I don't know about comprehensive, but at least knowledge of state and local laws would be.
And we should probably
Right.
change city to say town. manager, right,
Yeah.
administrator. Okay, great, we'll work on this. Okay, so we'll see if a second pass on this on Monday. All right, but Lissa will be here and I want us to try to be efficient on that time with her. So everyone's good with that for where the next step is? Dan will get some language to me and we'll look at that and get it to Lissa.
Were we gonna talk about the requirement to live here?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That is important. Thank you, Leo. I would have forgotten. So the requirement to live here is something that we have the right to waive as a council. In the charter, we can give permission for someone not to live here for any amount of time we so choose. As a council, we can say for the first 6 months or a year, or I guess we could permanently keep giving permission. SGR has brought up the fact that finding housing in Orono is very hard. There's very few houses in the market at any point in time, and that if we want to recruit a candidate, we should be looking at least not requiring it very quickly, because houses come on the market pretty slowly.
The one thing I think we do need to require is that they're on site, so, and maybe, I mean, that's-
Working on site?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I think they need to be here. But I think we definitely should provide as much flexibility as kind of needed to get actually. Well, yeah, so if they have to live in Bangor for the first 6 months or 9 months, or, whatever they have to do until they can
I
get
think a
into
year is
Orono.
reasonable because a lot of things are like year leases.
Yeah.
or whatever, and I think a year is a reasonable amount of time to find something here too. That's my opinion.
We'd hope that they obviously find a place in Orono.
I feel like a year is a reasonable time frame to be able to find something. I guess it could be extended if we had to later. How do people feel about a year? So that as they're looking, they know they don't have to find one in the immediate.
I think that's.
Lissa told us when she got online, there was literally one house.
Yeah, I feel like it's something it has a residency requirement in the charter, right?
But we have the right to waive it as a council. It's in the charter. Cornell sent it to me.
Could you say something like, and maybe this could be something we take a pass at with the language that we're gonna look at, but the charter has a residency requirement. The council is willing to negotiate that based on the availability of housing or something to that effect, with the understanding that it's on site.
Lissa said the more specific we could be, the easier it will be to recruit candidates. Instead of just saying willing to negotiate, to be clear that there'd be a 6-month window to find housing or a year-long window or whatever it was. So we can certainly ask her about that again on Monday, but she was very clear that the more clear we can be about what that is up front, the easier it will be to attract candidates. People look at the housing market quickly and they'll see one house, so, or two, whatever's there. I don't know.
It's not that important to me that the town manager lives in Orono, as long as the town manager is in Orono.
I think I do want them to ultimately live here, but I'm good with a year to do it. And obviously if it's like, when they can't find something, a reasonable council would extend, I'm sure. You've got a great manager and you're like, no, sorry.
Yeah, get out. Yeah.
Not so good.
Until March to move in or.
Easy's just not close enough.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so we're thinking a year.
All right.
And Leo's raising a different question, which kind of goes into the next part, which we don't have that much time, but we can start talking about. The last thing on here really, apart from scheduling, was salary range benefits is also on here along with housing requirements. So one of the other benefits that Lissa said, she said people like to know, do they have the ability to work remotely 1 day a week? Are they expected to be in the office 5 days a week? Those kinds of things are useful to say. I know many of our staff are in the office long days for 4 days a week instead of 5. I don't actually know what Sophie's agreement said. I believe, I don't know if
think
she
she was
worked
here
at home
5
on
days.
Fridays or was she here on Fridays? I don't know.
Pretty sure.
You know,
she was
Mitch?
She was here every day.
I think
So-
it's,
And probably Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, when she wasn't here, she was working.
Yeah.
Right.
Home when she was.
But Lisa also brought this up, which is why I'm bringing it up. She said it's something else to bring up for quality of life. People like to know, do they have the flexibility to work remotely 1 day a week? So I put it out to you all.
For me, I wouldn't start the position that way, and I get that it's an attractive thing to do. But I do feel, I mean, even, you know, the first year, they've got a lot to do and their presence, the staff and everything, I think is pretty critical. Granted, a lot of staff isn't here on Fridays, I guess, but I'm not in favor of that for an enticement. Just because I think.
So I think all these questions about job description and salary benefits and housing are gonna come back to us on Monday when Liz is here because she's sending us comp salaries later this week.
comparables.
Yeah, comparable salaries from Maine, is specifically not Southern Maine. Leo and I were clear. She already knew she was gonna look at Central Maine and but I just, the more we've done some thinking about this ahead, the better.
The
as-
other,
Go ahead.
and just one
Yeah,
other thing
you may, Leo.
that she mentioned, which maybe an enticement that is worth considering is paying down mortgage to get the points. To get points down, you know, if you've got someone that right now has a mortgage at 4.5%, 5%, and there's nothing below 7%. And as a stipend to come here, we would potentially pay that down. I don't know what it costs to pay them down or anything, but it might be something. Well, I think it's something worth considering to understand what that is.
Yeah, you gotta negotiate if that's what, you know, you get the right
Yeah.
candidate, they're like, you want me to live in town and interest rates are now 7%.
Yeah.
And I live 30 minutes away, I could be, you know, that's something you gotta negotiate with somebody.
I think she was talking about it not just for folks who might live nearby, but also just to convince people to relocate at all. And when people are looking at jobs right now, they're looking for that kind of thing because mortgage rates are so much higher than they were. And a lot of people have their mortgages locked in at a very low rate where they are. That it's been an enticement that communities offer to try to get more people to be interested in their job. So I don't understand how that would work financially yet, Leo. So do you? I mean, I think we need to ask Lisa about this more on Monday. If we want more information on it, we should tell Lisa upfront that we'd like her to explain it and present about it on Monday if it's an enticement that we are interested in considering.
My thought would be to ask Zach if he could speak to our bank and find out
Great.
if someone's gonna do a mortgage, what's it cost to pay down points?
Cornell, is that something we can get some information on for Monday?
Can do.
Thank you. Then, so sometime later this week, Lisa will be sending us comparable salaries and she will have looked over the benefits package information that staff provided in the profile document. And she'll send us feedback on whether she thinks that the benefits are, you know, competitive and look like where they need to be, or whether they're higher than average or lower than average. I don't know. She'll have opinions on the benefits that she'll share with us and comparable salaries. All we know on salaries so far is that when we were looking at companies and chose to hire SGR, they said at the time that they wouldn't take our contract unless we were willing for the high end of our range to hit 150. The low end can start where we want, but they said the high end had to hit 150 to take us as a client, because they said they don't want to repeat their search. And their experience has been that searches are getting repeated a lot by towns that aren't willing to put a high enough top range. Leo had another discussion with Lisa about that. He might have more to say, but that's what I
Just that
understood.
I was the one that said I'm not bent on us doing a national search, and that's part of the reason, because to come from California where you're making 250,000 to Orono is maybe not that attractive. Although the other piece is Maine's a lower cost of living than most states. And I'm not looking to match California or other bigger cities or big, a 30% increase from what or so from where we were is a little tough to swallow.
Right, so
I thought some of the, like the leave and stuff like that, I think we should have a conversation about that too, but it sounds like we will next.
So Monday, bring those questions, and if you have some ahead of time and you want to send them my way, I'll be sure that I forward those on to Alyssa, so she knows these are questions people have.
Yeah.
And comes prepared to really fully, I already asked her to take a look at the benefits package and to tell us whether she thought it was, competitive, excellent, not up to par, whatever.
Yeah.
And likewise on the salary, and I do think, Leo, that on the salary, SGR never said to me that they were asking us to hit that number to recruit people from out of state. They really were looking at the comparable salaries recently on new jobs that have gone out, and sending them my way. So hopefully they will have looked at more now. The only ones they sent me in the early fall were from Augusta and, Waterville, and I can't remember, I sent them to you. But those were right in that range.
And those were, I think, national searches where people came from out of state,
Augusta and Waterville? I don't know.
Colorado or something.
Anyway, so there'll be more discussion about salary benefits and housing requirements on Monday. And Leo, the only person that has expressed interest in the job directly to me before we hired SGR was from looking at a job in California, and they very clearly knew what cost of living was, because they said to me, 120 or whatever in Maine is the same as 200 in California. So hopefully people do look at that and they realize like you can live on a lot less, so hopefully. Okay, does anyone have anything else? We actually got through that whole agenda. I'm impressed. We have tasks. Dan's gonna look at language tonight. Leo and I are gonna draft and get ready an email to go out to anyone who's expressed an interest in serving on the search advisory committee. Everyone is gonna send me their time availability in those blocks of time to meet with Lissa. Even though you think you have your time, just send me your whole availability in case somebody else needs the time you think you have, and I have to move people. Anything else that we need? Matt and I will talk about driving her around, about details on that.
Well, I have a question for Cornell before we adjourn about scheduling a topic. We could do that. Jeff, well, I thought we'd get Jeff. I didn't know he was leaving early, but are we okay with that? You okay? Fine. So Matt and I, you got that. Cornell, you provided us that good feedback on the how the Department of Transportation, the Maine Department of Transportation, how a town can reach out to the Maine Department of Transportation to talk about speed crossings for trains. We had input from a constituent, and I think there are others, we know of others who are interested as well. I asked about adding this to the schedule of the February 5th committee meeting, and you told me that we had a bunch of finance stuff already on the agenda for that session. So I wanted to ask if we could schedule some kind of conversation like we've done, like we did in the fall. We attended a a block party down at the Union Street Boat Launch. And so we could just have a conversation with people, with more than a couple counselors. And we noticed it so that it was, people knew that the council members were going to be together at a conversation. So I was wondering if you had any concerns about us taking that approach, finding some time on our schedule. I know Matt and I are interested in it. We can invite others to participate in it, but not have it be like a committee meeting, at 3:30 on a Wednesday or something with people who want to attend, so that we can have a conversation about it as opposed to taking up scheduled council time.
Two things. One, one of the finance items, actually the longest one, which was probably going to be 40 minutes or so, which was a bond presentation. He couldn't make it on the 5th because I had bumped everything from the 29th to the 5th, and he wasn't able to do it. So that opens up a bit of time if for an item to be added. The second thing is that Rob has found out that the speed limit at the crossings is 25 miles an hour, and they won't go any lower than 25 miles an hour. So, I mean, we can discuss it, but I even requesting MDOT to look at it, it isn't going to be dropped below the minimum or the minimum speed of 25.
Dan, what were your, and I don't even know if I've seen that information. Is that shared with everyone?
He shared it with us in a weekly report.
The report from Cornell.
Said it's 25 or 25.
No, that part is brand new to us right now.
Yeah, that was new. It just talked about what the kind of the authorities that state, federal, and local governments have in relation to train tracks, train speed, maintenance responsibilities, that kind of thing. And that was in response to a complaint of trains are going speeding through town. The railroad owner has been improving the track so that they can increase speeds, but at crossings, it's still 25.
Yeah, that's maximum or the minimum?
Max.
What was that?
That, that's the maximum because they,
They've been going slower.
Yeah, the maximum that they can do is 25. And they
for
won't
yours,
go any
they-
lower. They won't go any lower than 25.
You mean for the maximum?
So there's a couple of pieces here. One, and I don't know if we heard from Marguerite at our meeting and we can do this offline. Can
I'm
we?
just wondering, because I have one more thing that we didn't talk about that I just realized I want to say out loud before we close the search committee part and Matt's going to leave.
All right,
So just to say, I know, just to say, the other thing we need to talk about, Lisa has just sent us a list of where we choose to job, what advertisement sites. Some are free as part of the SGR contract, others are not. And we have to choose which ones we want to pick. So there'll be like an itemized list for different places to advertise. And we get to decide if we want to list not just at ICMA, the International City Managers Association, which is the nationwide one, but if we also want to target nearby states, Massachusetts, or I don't know, New Hampshire or Vermont, or if we also want to look at advertising in sites that are not always just toward municipal government. If we're going to advertise in higher education sites or other sites where people might cross over from other private or public sector jobs into municipal jobs. So those are discussions we need to have on Monday also, and I will be sending the price list, but you all should be thinking, Melissa basically said, we pick, and casting a wide net is not bad at the beginning because you want to attract candidates, but I know Cornell had some thoughts about not advertising anywhere that wasn't already folks in municipal government. And so I think, you know, that's a discussion we need to have. Do we want to advertise only in municipal government sites, or do we want to advertise at some that are a little beyond that and see what that brings us or not?
okay,
So that, so people beware.
okay.
That's good.
So
Thank you.
if we could, I'd like to take the 5th and schedule a community development discussion for that, for the news that you found, for the news that Rob had. Particularly if there are other people that are concerned about the perceived speed of these trains. And I know from reading the website, there are things that the municipality, the main DOT could do to improve crossings. So to the extent that there is concern, you know, we've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
So are you- some staff ask the Bob or Cornell come and express that, how that. So our committee meeting.
within our committee meeting. So I would like to talk, I'd like this for all of us to hear what Cornell just told us. I'd like to look at, as a committee, I'd like to look at the website. As counselors, I'd like to look at the website that Cornell's given us. And I'd like to have people who maybe have concerns to know that we're talking about it, to see if they have something they want us to share.
Even if there isn't anything to be done about it, it's useful for people to have as much information about
Yeah.
what the situation is, right?
And we
to
looked
fully
into it,
understand that.
yeah, we heard from somebody concerned about safety and they, yep. Is that okay, Cornell? Can we do that?
Yeah, we can put the link on the agenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
That would help.
all right. I don't know if
Okay.
Rob, sir, we would just relay what Rob learned, but.
Okay,
I would
yeah.
probably on my own, so, okay,
Sounds good.
great.
Thank you, Cornell. Thank you,
Okay,
Pete.
good night.
Good night, everybody.
We're adjourning, right?
Sorry.
Thank you. No, it's all good. I never even plugged my computer in. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's farm.
It's this e-farm coach. He coaches. It's the kid thing. They teach the kids to.
Where's that?
You're behind the high school. Have fun.
Lights, headlights?
Yep.
So Dan can bring in my 23-year-old as the train expert.
Yeah, he loves training, right?
Well, he knows it all. He doesn't love them. He like he follows it all. So when I mentioned that it came up at council, he was like, yes, mom, because this company bought it and the new speeds on the track are this and they've upgraded this and this and this and this. And these are I mean, he is as serious, he and his college roommate are not like so nerdy